need to be doing is negotiating with people who do own some of that land and saying, look, if you build high, we'll let you build high density on the flatter areas if you will protect those slopes up there. So it's about sitting down with developers and trying to get some better outcomes. Starting times, people do have some rights around how long they take to build their house, and I'm sure there are people here who wouldn't want to be constrained by that. But certainly that use it or lose it scheme came in. It was 2 years to be able to get plans in, and then another 4 years to be able to complete it. And we do need to be ensuring compliance with that.
Move on to Solon Johnson, independent candidate for Mayor. What's your position on development of hill slopes so far as height restrictions or otherwise? And do you believe that once an approval has been given for a development, be it domestic or commercial, to go ahead, that it should be completed in a particular time? The other part of that question related to these long-held leases, and should people be allowed to perhaps have exemptions for development approvals?
Okay, going from backwards I think would be the best way. First, I think with the development, we've got an outrageous overdevelopment of Cairns, and we have had now for the last probably 8 years. We should be looking for the developers to understand they've got to comply with the Cairns plan. I fully accept that. However, when the incumbent Cairns City Council implemented the Cairns plan, it's been nothing but a hodgepodge. They've changed it in accordance with developers' wishes, and unless they look at excuse me sir, unless the Cairns City Council complies with its own Cairns plan, we're going to get more of the same. As far as with the hill slopes are concerned, there should be no building on hill slopes, full stop. If there's going to be any development, it's the face of the hill slopes. As far as with the height restrictions are concerned, it should not be open slather. There should be a height restriction on there. If anyone would like to have a look at the Douglas Shire's height restrictions, which takes it to a maximum of the bottom of the eaves, that's what we should be looking at here, not imposing what we've got here. We should be looking at transposing Port Douglas's down here. As far as with the use it or lose it, it's long overdue, and as far as with the developers and some other people, the investors, let's call them, saying that they've had it for 5, 10, 15 or 20 years and they can do what they like hell they should be doing what they like. They should be applying the council should be applying the exact same restrictions. It doesn't matter how long they've owned the darn thing. And until we get hold of the Cairns plan, do a public consultation, do a correct review of it with full input from community groups, we're going to get more of the same. My suggestion is make sure we dump this incumbent council, let's move on and get some people who want to do the right thing by the residents.
Peter Sandoval is an independent candidate for Mayor. I wonder if I could ask you that same question. Your position on hill slope development, possible height restrictions, approvals, should they be done in a specific amount of time unless absolute extenuating circumstances require an exemption?
I'd like to state clearly and precisely that I'm totally against all hill slope development. Over the last 30 years in Cairns, there's been an enormous amount of hill slope development all the way from Palm Cove to Bordenvale. This is causing visual ugliness and it's causing a lot of damage to the natural environment. I reckon everything that's possible needs to be done to stop any further hill slope development, because it's really destroying the beautiful natural environment of Cairns, making it ugly for the people living here, and also putting people tourism issue. A lot of people come to a place that's become like a concrete jungle where the beautiful natural scenery around Cairns is being destroyed by surface greedy people.
Thank you. I'll move on to the second of my questions, and I'd like in this instance to start with Val Shear, who's heading up, seeking the mayoralty on behalf of the Cairns First Party. In informed opinion, and I'm talking about experts at universities, etc., suggest that much of our hill slopes are unstable, unsuitable for development. On whose shoulders will responsibility fall in the event of a landslip or a landslide? And I do have to say, I looked at some rather disturbing footage of what has happened at the False Cape site. I looked at that about 6 o'clock this morning. So there are a lot of questions being asked with this regard.
And that's a very good question. The reality is the people of Cairns are going to be liable, and that means you and me and the ratepayers here in the future are going to be responsible for the planning mistakes that have been made by this current council. Now, some of you will remember back in the late 1990s, we're down at Castle at Townsville, when there was a slip there and a house sort of went down the hill slopes. The federal government, John Howard's government at that time, actually funded a study, a geological study into the risk of building on slopes in far north Queensland. So, and they came up with the fact that there are a whole heap of hill slopes around this area which should not be built on. They are geologically unstable. And so it's a cause of great concern to many of us that this council has continued to make approvals on land that is putting the people who live on it at risk in the future. And we are going to be liable for that. And as we are also going to be liable for the people who are living in canal estates and on flat areas. I mean, the Insurance Council of Australia has said that there are 5 high-risk places in the nation, and Cairns is one of those, from the impacts of sea rise from global warming. And yet we've gone ahead and we've approved inappropriate developments on low-lying areas, and we've called people like John Knott all the names under the sun about that. So we are going to be liable for it.
I'm just keen to know why you haven't brought the developer there. Do you believe that there's any onus on the developer of a particular site that might see mishap?
Pat, the developer is long gone often by the time problems occur, although in the case of False Cape, we know that council's supposed to be holding $650,000, and they ought to be using that money over there at the moment to stop the sea from running red, because that's what's happening over there.
Selwyn Johnson, independent candidate. On whose shoulders do you think responsibility should fall in the event of a landslip or a landslide?
Pat, it's probably an unfortunate situation that the Insurance Council won't give insurance policies to councils for this particular instance. However, it's not only on False Cape, it's also we've got a potential problem going to happen at Buchan's Point, on the northern face of Buchan's Point. There's also problems at Caravonica, coming up at Gordonvale along the slopes there as well. Of course the developers should be responsible, they should be held responsible. And it's just an unfortunate process that nothing has been put in place prior to this. And actually I applaud the work of SOS and Mark Buttrose over the years for what he's done. And it's just a shame that to date that we haven't been able to stop the bloody False Cape mess. Thank you.
Peter Sandercoat, your thoughts on that question, on whose shoulders will or should responsibility fall in the event of a landslip?
Well, the responsibility should fall in the hands of the developer. A good example of that was the False Cape development, which is a very dangerous development, even caused the death of one of the workers. The Cairns City Council must not ever approve any development that would cause very serious problems like that. I mean, also what concerns me with the new Cairns Regional Council expanding the Port Douglas Mossman danger area and make sure to support that no bad developments is approved in this very beautiful, unique, precious part of the natural environment.
And we'll come back to the final response to that question from Councillor Terry Jones, Deputy Mayor Terry Jones, representing the head of the Unity team, Kevin Byrne.
Thanks, Pat. In the Cairns plan, we have introduced a hill slopes policy specifically for these issues. The developers, when they put in their initial subdivision application, have to go through a whole series of hoops and provide a whole heap of geotechnical reports to guarantee those particular lots that they are proposing to sell will be stable. Now, if and when these lots are signed off on, and then the general public come back, purchase those lots, and if those lots are within the hill slopes policy, there is part of that policy that they'd have to resubmit to council more tests specifically for a landslide.
But if it does happen?
If it does happen, well, your guess is as good as mine, so who has to pay? It'll be a blame game for everybody. Yeah.
Well, I've got a few more questions, but I'll just ask one and then we'll move on to yours, because I think yours